Thanks, Toby. Hi, everyone. I'm Neisha. I am the product lead for Google Shopping in Nice in Northern Central Europe. And I'm going to spend some time today talking to you guys about shopping, more specifically, how to make the most of your shopping through our new platform, which is Shopping Campaigns. I'll just find the clicker. Cool. So, just to give you an idea of the agenda today, we're going to be focusing on one of our biggest global launch in shopping this year in 2014, which will be Shopping Campaigns, which we are rolling out at the moment. I'm going to talk to you about planning for your upgrade, and then also the two parts of that, which are getting your feed ready for your upgrade, the changes that you might need to make, and then also on the AdWords side, how to actually think about that upgrade. And I guess I'll be going from the very beginning, and so there'll be all different stages in this room, from people who are very new to Shopping Campaigns to people who have started the migration to people who've already done it. But hopefully there'll be interesting stuff in there for all of you. Okay, so I hope you all had a good night last night. I guess I'm hearing there's some hangovers in the room, but trust me, an hour of campaign management and feed optimization is the best cure for that. So stick with me. Great. Also, sorry, I forgot to mention, this session, hopefully I'll be aiming for around 40 minutes, and we'll do some time for Q&A at the end. And I also have one of my wonderful feed specialists in the room who can help with questions as well. Okay, so let's start. Shopping campaigns. So does everybody know what shopping campaigns are? Does anybody know what shopping campaigns are? Okay, I'm just going to pretend half of you put your hands up and half of you didn't, for no particular reason. But anyway, so shopping campaigns are our brand new campaign management for product listing ads in AdWords. And the reason that is our biggest global launch in 2014 is, as you all know, we launched product listing ads approximately a year ago, depending on which market you're in. And our advertisers majoritively loved it. So it's a great product. We have great performance metrics. It looks great. All that kind of stuff was very positive. What wasn't positive was campaign management. So the overall feedback, the biggest piece of feedback we got from our advertisers was that PLAs were hard to manage, both from the feed side and from the AdWords perspective. And so for that reason, our biggest focus in 2013 from an engineering perspective was building a product-focused campaign management system into AdWords. Okay? So shopping campaigns were built really on three pillars. That is retail-centric campaign management, advanced reporting, and providing competitive landscape data and insights. And I'm just going to talk about those three in a bit more detail. So firstly, retail-centric campaign management. What do we mean by that? I basically mean that when we launched product listing ads, which, as you all know, is a keywordless, text adless product, we kind of just dumped it into AdWords, which is for keywords and text ads, and was like, go ahead, everyone, here you go. It's just, we retrofitted it. It didn't really work. And so what we wanted to create was a product-focused, inventory-focused campaign management system. And that's what we've really tried to do here. So we're going to look at it in more detail through the presentation. But it's just things like being able to see your products directly in the UI, be able to see also uploads of your feed, all that kind of stuff directly in the AdWords interface, being able to bid more granularly and make sure that you're really covering everything in your feed. The second thing is advanced reporting, and by advanced reporting we mean just giving you actual good reporting, which we hadn't done previously. So we now have a proper dimensions tab. It allows you to see all your products, see how they're doing, do all the filtering and sorting and exporting that you're used to in AdWords with your regular search campaigns. And then thirdly, competitive landscape data. So again, a huge ask from our advertisers. And one that we've really focused on. So right now in AdWords, there's very little we surface to you for shopping. With shopping campaigns, we've launched benchmark CTR, benchmark CPCs, impression share, bid simulators, budget tools, all the kind of stuff you're used to in AdWords that we didn't previously provide you with. So, I think shopping campaigns is great, but obviously I'm slightly biased. So we also have a case study that you can ask your account teams for that goes into more detail. But basically we have Farfetch, who's one of our big London online retailers, very innovative and one of the first testers of shopping campaigns in the UK. And as you can see, they saw, with the optimization techniques, 13% increase in their conversion rate and 20% decrease in their CPA. So the point we're just trying to make here is that shopping campaigns are really valuable, not just because we hope they make your life easier, they save you time and energy, but also because we're releasing data and insights to you that really help you optimize your campaigns with data that you didn't have before. So there's a real advantage to upgrading as soon as possible and giving yourself access to these tools and these insights that your competitors will have as well. There's also one other tiny reason that you should probably think about upgrading if you haven't already. That's because we are deprecating product listing ads in the legacy campaigns at the end of August. So that means you have around 15 weeks to move over to the new platform. However, I would just definitely not leave it to August. The campaign management system is ready now. And it's really great. It gives you all this insight. So if you're able to upgrade now, I would recommend doing it as soon as possible and take advantage of all the insights, data, and tools, new tools that you will have in that system. Okay, everyone still with me? Kind of, do you want to do some drumming or no? Okay. So, planning your upgrade process. So where do you start with upgrading? And I was thinking about this yesterday whilst I was watching House of Cards, and I was thinking that it's a bit like, did anyone used to write essays by hand, like at school and stuff? That literally can't just be me. Okay. Thank you guys over there. So it's a bit like, I was thinking it's a bit like when you used to write essays at school and you actually couldn't just, when you type essays, you could just add everything anywhere. If you write an essay by hand, you have to think about what you're going to do first and then write the essay, or have some kind of ink eraser nightmare. So moving to shopping campaigns is a bit like, this analogy is tenuous, but it's a bit like writing an essay by hand. You need to take the opportunity to think about what you want to do first, right? So we know shopping campaigns is a great platform, but it also gives you that opportunity to really think about how you want to structure your campaigns. What is that? It's like a really slow release balloon. Okay, but thanks. Just keep it lively in here. I'll need another one of those in about 5 minutes. So we use the campaign creation, to think about streamlining your structure. So, if you're happy with your PLA campaigns and the structure, that's great. Think about moving that across. But if not, take the opportunity to really have a spring clean and tidy up your campaigns. Thanks. Wow. Okay, so the other thing to remember is I am not going to be able to tell you exactly what to do with your campaigns. There is no magical switch universal button thing. You have to think about your own strategy. So we can give you guidelines, tips, advice, but you guys know your businesses better, definitely better than I do. So it's about taking those tips and translating them to what works for your company and your strategy. Okay? So the main buckets that we've seen upgrade strategy fall into is either structuring by your bids, structuring by performance, so what performs well, what doesn't perform well, or most commonly a combination of both of those things. But one of the best things to do is actually just think about how you want to budget and how you want to bid for your campaigns and your products, and kind of backpedal from there. So get an idea of how you want to control your campaigns and then set them up that way through shopping campaigns. So other things to consider. As I've said, you've got around, if you haven't started already, you have around 15 weeks before we move over solely to shopping campaigns. But as I also mentioned, I highly recommend getting this done ASAP. Things you need to think about. Do you have a simple or complex structure? And by that I mean, do you have like a few product targets currently, or do you have like hundreds or thousands of product targets? That's something to consider, because that kind of defines whether you can just upgrade, in an hour or in half an hour, or whether your upgrade is going to take time and you're going to need it to do it over a gradual process. So really work out how you want to do your upgrade and when. Think about your existing PLA structure. So what's working well in there? Like, what do you want to transfer over? What do you want to start afresh? And also, what's missing? Like, what are the things that you wish you could have added that were difficult in the old structure that aren't perhaps in the new one? And lastly, think about your bidding. So the new structure makes bidding a lot more easy. It makes it easier, and it also gives you a lot more insight as to how your bidding affects your strategy. So all those things should help, and really think about altogether how you're going to upgrade using those guidelines. Okay, so once you've got your plan, there's two parts to think about. One is your feed. Of course, everybody loves a good feed. And the second one is AdWords, so actually setting up the shopping campaign. So we're just going to talk, I think, for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes about feed. So who here really enjoys feed management? Great. So do I. I've really enjoyed the feed parts of this product over the last year. So, feeds. This is a learning process, but what I can say is that having a good feed is just so important. So we really appreciate the work that all of you guys have done, all our partners have done, in really trying to get up to speed with this process. And to be honest, it's a learning process for us as well. So we've introduced, I was actually just talking to Toby earlier, and I was thinking product listing ads have only been around for just over a year, and it's crazy how far they've come. And it's crazy that we've just, everybody's just moved to this feed-based product and learned how to use it in a whole new different way. And yes, there's definitely improvements to come, and we are going to work on our feed management process, streamlining that, making it easier. But also, there are things you can do in the interim to really try and make sure you have a good feed. And the reason I say it's so important is fairly self-evident. You all know the reason. It's because that's what the data in your feed is what we use to choose what products to serve. So the better the data you give us, the more complete, the more accurate, the easier it is for us to understand your products. And just also bear in mind, giving us as much data as possible is important also because your competitors might be giving us more data. So if you don't give us the data, somebody else might be. That makes it easier for us to understand somebody else's products over yours. Okay, so the beloved Merchant Center. This is the first place to go to understand if there are errors in your feed. So data feeds tab, data quality tab. Try and make friends with them. It's not, it's a love-hate thing, but you can become close. So I don't know what I'm going to leave that. So data feeds. So go to your error pages and really think about, have you got the right data there? Are you missing things like UPIs? Are your URLs verified? Do you have data mismatches between pricing, availability? Those are really common errors. And stuff that we're trying to fix. So I won't go into detail here, but for the mismatch, for example, that was a huge error area for us, and we have a beta called the automatic items beta, which helps you automatically make sure that their data is up to date by crawling on the site. So just if that's an issue for you, maybe that's something you can talk to your account team about. Okay, and then attributes. Attributes. Those are really important. Does anyone know can anyone tell me what an attribute is? I'll just tell you what an attribute is. It's not that exciting question, but it's basically a column it's one of the columns in your feed, right? So an example of an attribute is product type, right? So product type is an attribute for shopping campaigns that allows you to give us a taxonomy for your data feed, right? So it allows you to choose how you categorize your products and how you define them in wide to narrow buckets. So the example here is we have product categories, which are bicycles and road, gender, which then allows you to have a gender focus, year, size, fairly self-evident. These are not Google product categories, which I'll talk about in a sec, which we have a defined taxonomy that we ask you to fill in. This is a taxonomy that allows you to choose how to catalog your own products. And that means that when you go into AdWords, you can then have a strategy based on your own catalog that makes sense for you. Is that clear? Yeah? The other taxonomy we have is the Google product category. So that's our predefined taxonomy. You can't make that up. You have to use our kind of categorization. So it's really important, well, it's important definitely that you fill this one in. And I would say that is a required attribute in some countries, but it's also only recommended in other countries. So you don't always have to have that data. I would recommend that you always fill that in. So always have that data in whether you need to or not, because it's really useful to us. It's a strong indicator to us what your product is. Right? So keep that data filled in, even if you have product type filled in yourselves. Okay. Then AdWords Labels and AdWords Grouping. So anyone use AdWords Labels at the moment? Okay. The good news is that it's not good news. You have to change them to custom labels. I was pretending it was good news. I'm just going to say it's great news that you get to call them something else. So we have replaced AdWords labels with custom labels. This may seem odd to you, but there's a clever engineering reason why this has to happen that is too complicated for me to really understand. But basically, if you have AdWords labels, and let's ignore AdWords grouping because that's rarely used. But if you had AdWords grouping, you need to use custom labels instead. Okay, and I'll talk about that in a bit more detail. But essentially, custom labels, they do the same thing. So they allow you to group your products in an entirely different way. So not by brand or not by condition or product type, but by something completely different to your business. So like you want to group all your best sellers together, or you want to group all your flash sale products together. It allows you to just use a totally custom label, which you can then translate into AdWords in your own bid. Okay? I would also highlight here that just because we're changing from AdWords labels and grouping to custom labels, don't delete those columns. So keep those columns in there. Three reasons. Three reasons. One, it doesn't matter if they're still there. That's totally fine. It's not going to do anything bad to your feed. Two, if you're going to move over to shopping campaigns in a staggered approach, you want to still have your AdWords labels active in your old stuff whilst you move over to custom labels in your new campaigns. And the third reason is that we still use that data for dynamic remarketing. So if you are using dynamic remarketing, you don't want to delete that all and then not have it available for that product also. So just keep it in. There's no reason to delete it if that's what you were thinking of doing. Okay. So custom labels, what are they? They're our replacement for AdWords labels for shopping campaigns. Every product can have up to 5 labels, which we've helpfully started from 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, but that is 5 labels. And you can give each product 1 label within that. So everyone has 5, every product can have up to 5 labels, if that makes sense. So instead of 1 AdWords label column, you can have 5 custom labels columns, if that makes sense. And then for each product, you can put a different field in 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not sure I explained that well, but hopefully that makes sense to you. And if not, I would definitely recommend reading up on it on the AdWords Help Centre. But the reason it's really important is because it gives you an opportunity to really think about how you want to manage your feed and your AdWords from a custom perspective. So not just product focused, but strategically focused as well. Okay? Okay, so you've got a good idea of like your feed being, of what your feed needs to look like for shopping campaigns and the changes you need to make. This is also a chance to not just do a spring clean of your AdWords campaign structure, but also a spring clean in terms of feed improvements. So we're just going to spend a little bit of time talking about how to make your feed a bit better. So the first thing is giving us clean and clear data, which sounds pretty simple, but we do appreciate that that's not always as simple as it may seem. But as I said, give us as much data as possible. Don't just give us the required attributes. Really think about the recommended attributes as well. And that will all help to give us the information we need to determine what your product is and when it's appropriate to serve it. Make product images glamour shots. Who here's from the UK? Anyone from the UK here? Expecting to see a bicycle with that headline. That's why I put it in inverted commas. But basically, that's a US slide. Basically, give us great images. That's what we're asking for. And it seems really simple, but really don't underestimate, A, the images that we get that aren't good, and B, what impact it has on your performance, because that's one of the massive things about product listing ads, how visual it is as a format, especially in contrast to the rest of the search page. Right, so give us a great image, and there's some dimensions there. And then things to avoid: don't put watermarks on it, don't put text on it, promotions, all that stuff will be disapproved, and it's a hassle and it's not worth it. So just give us a great high resolution image, because that's what we found works the best, and that's what we'll appreciate the most in terms of serving. Okay, titles. Titles and descriptions are really, really important. In a way, you should think of them as your copy for your ads. So give us accurate, user-friendly, informative titles and descriptions. Again, pretty self-evident, but yeah, you'd be surprised at some of the titles and descriptions that we get. So do things like write keyword-rich titles and descriptions. And by that we mean think about how your users are searching for your products, and think about developing that language into your descriptions and titles. Because ultimately, if a user user's searching for a particular query, if they see something similar, they're more likely to click. So you can do things like user search query reports. So yes, we're keywordless, but the search query report still works, showing you what queries are generating your ads, and use that to kind of think about how you can reverse engineer titles, for example. And then mirror the product information on your website, and that's just for consistency. So like have a story between your ad and between your website so that it's easy for them to translate from the ad to the product you're landing them on. And then be wary of truncation. So that means we don't show the whole title normally if it's too long. So make sure you've got the important information up front. So the model, the brand name, etc. All that straight at the front, rather than something that might not make sense if it was shortened. Okay. So we've got some examples here. This one, so basically the yellow stuff is stuff we recommend adding, and the grey is what was there before. So instead of just deluxe, legacy, double SIM case, it's quite generic. Make sure you add the brand, and make sure you're specific about what the product is. Because those two things are really, may seem simple, but they're often how the user's searching. They're going to be searching for a thing, and they're likely going to be searching for a product. And also, a product plus a brand is a really common query set for us to serve product listing ads against, because it's very product focused of what we serve on. Okay, so that's one thing to think about. Think about what word order you put your title in. You put in your title. So here you can see they started off with just 500 thread and the sheet set's right at the end. Put the product near the front because, again, if that truncation happens, it doesn't look as good as somebody else's title might do. Make sure you have great product descriptions, okay? So we recommend about 1,000 characters for that. This may not seem important naturally, but actually this is the stuff we show on the shopping property, so .co.com/shopping. So make sure you have as much good information as there as possible. Again, the brand, the product, like what it is and what it does, like things like warranties, colors, all that kind of stuff is really helpful for the user, and giving them as much information as possible before they actually go to your site or go to through your ad. And then categorization. So we talked about the Google product category. Be granular. So don't just stop at toasters in kitchen dining. We have a toaster category. So go right down there, and that just makes it so much easier for us to automatically categorize and know what your products are. Yeah. And then use normal language or English or whatever language it is that your feed is in. By that we mean if you have a shade of dark watermelon lipstick, it is unlikely that your user is searching for dark watermelon lipstick. They're probably searching for pink lipstick. So just use pink. Maybe the color is dark watermelon, but think of it from a user perspective. Think about colloquialisms. So black pants in America are very different to black pants in England. So these are women's black trousers, but they're also black pants in the US. And just think about how your users are searching, how those translations can happen. Yeah. So just that was a kind of whirlwind tour of your attributes and feeds. But basically, things to remember: give us clean and clear data. Give us great images. Make sure you optimize your titles and think about how your users are searching on their queries. Normalize your data, use plain English. And lastly, categorize accurately and be granular. Okay? Cool, so you've got a great feed. Now I'm going to do a super exciting demo of how to create a shopping campaign in AdWords. So everyone hold their breath. Whilst I just move this paper. Great, so could I switch to the computer, please? Thanks. Okay, so everybody remember this. This is how AdWords is currently for product listing ads. So you want to add a product target. You have to go to the product target. You have to guess. You have to say, okay, I want to target by product type. Then you have to go in here and type exactly what is in your feed, which, as you can see, is nowhere to be seen. So I imagine either printed out in front of you or on another tab in your browser. And you have to say, I don't know why this is the first thing that came into my head, but tights, shoes. That doesn't make any sense, but fine. I should have thought of an example beforehand. So if that doesn't exactly match, and we now don't have the validate button either, you will be targeting nothing in AdWords, right? And nothing in your feed, and you actually don't really know if you are or you aren't. So it seems strange that that even ever existed, but that is our old products. So instead, I'm going to go through and just quickly show you how we set up new shopping campaigns and how potentially very easy it can be. So you go to New Campaign, and then you see Shopping, which is, as you can see, the best way to create product listing ads. You go there. Let's call this Retail at Google. Fun demo. So everyone's having fun, and we're in AdWords, the best place to be on a Wednesday morning. And then we have a shopping campaign created. We then go down, so this is just stuff you're used to. We then go down to the merchant identifier. So that's basically saying which feed do you want us to link to. I'm just going to select the Google store. And then the country of sale. So where these are the 23 countries that Google Shopping is available in. So I'm just going to target the United Kingdom. And then we have this advanced shopping settings, which is the first real new feature of AdWords and AdWords shopping campaigns. And this is campaign priority. So basically we have low, medium, high. And this is based on feedback we got from our advertisers about which bid we choose when we serve from AdWords. So right now it's just we take the highest bid wherever it is. With campaign priority, if you have products in 2 campaigns, so one in the medium campaign, for example, and one overlapping also in the high campaign, we will take the bid from the high priority campaign. Whether the bid is lower or higher, it doesn't matter. You have indicated to us that this is your priority setting. So if the product is there twice, we'll take whatever bid is in the high priority campaign. Is that clear? Yep. You then have the opportunity to create a custom filter. So we recommend just targeting everything in your feed, but if you want to, you can just choose to target just the brand, for example, brand equals Nike or Adidas or whatever. But we recommend just starting here at a campaign level, targeting everything, and then doing the breakdown actually in AdWords. Then we go through to network, devices, location, all stuff you're very used to, so I won't go to in much detail. You set your bid and your budget, and you just save as normal. So really easy. You then have an ad group name. You have a chance to put your promotional message in. Shopping is fun. Same and continue. I'm very creative. Hopefully you can tell from this exciting demo. It's done. You're set up. So you have an all products group set up for shopping campaigns. So the bit I'm going to go back to the slides to show you more detail. But basically, one of the best things about shopping campaigns is the next bit, which is the fact that we now auto show you everything that's in your feed straight away in AdWords. So that demo I just did right at the beginning, where you're kind of guessing and typing, all that process is completely removed now. Instead, we have all the categories automatically uploaded, automatically surfaced in AdWords. So the feed I attached to, helpfully, is actually empty because we can't use a live feed. But you can see, if I'd had my category as animal and pets, it would show me how many products in my feed were animal and pets. I could just add them there, save, and they're there already, and I'm targeting them with a £1 bid, which I can easily just change. You can subdivide again, so I can subdivide into pet supplies, or I can divide by different categories, so by my custom labels, the product type. So if I'd filled in my product type here, that would all be surfaced here as well. So everything's just automatically surfaced to you without that guessing game, and giving you a better idea of how much of what products, etc., you actually have in your feed and what you're targeting. Okay, so if we go back to the slides now. Thank you. Great. So those animal and pet supplies, etc., are called product targets and product groups. And product groups are what we now use that are similar to your previous product targets in AdWords. So pretty much the same thing, very similar name, but they are different. And the best thing about them, as I said, is that they're automatically pulling those values from your feeds. And that allows you to then group those and bid differently for them. And this is where things like custom labels come in really useful, right? So you can see things like apparel, electronics, furniture, all regular product-based groups. But the custom labels would also let you bid by flash sale or winter offers, for example. So you could group your products in completely different ways that make sense to you, similarly to how you did with AdWords labels in this new, but even more easily in this new UI. Okay, so those are the different product groups we have. They're very similar to the ones before, but we have that kind of product type one now, and the Google product category as well. You can subdivide those up to 5 times as well. So we saw one subdivision with the pet supplies, but you can go down 5 times into deeper categories for bidding. And then you need to think about assigning bids to your product groups. So I won't go into too much detail about this because you guys know this stuff inside out, I'm sure. But you need to be obviously thinking about your bids, thinking about your ROI, your ROAS, and what your margins are. But the one thing I would say about this is that bidding is becoming increasingly important to shopping, right? So we have heard feedback from advertisers that they would like more control over their product listing ads. And so increasingly, as we become more confident with the product, more confident about what a good product is, we're letting bid become a slightly stronger part of the auction. So it's really important that you set up well in this instance. We're also going to be launching things like eCPC. And better bidding products for product listing ads later this year. So all that stuff is coming, so it's really important to make sure you have a good strategy to start off with as all these influencers become more important to you and more products become available to you in this space for product listing ads. And then limiting ID level subdivision. So this is one thing we really wanted to bring up. Basically, in our old interface, if you wanted to report at an ID level, so by that we mean at an individual product level, you used to have to set up a product target for every single ID, right? So it really was not a pleasant experience. But lots of customers did that just for reporting purposes. You do not need to do that in shopping campaigns. So in shopping campaigns, it doesn't matter what your structure looks like. In the Dimensions tab, you can report to the most granular level, right? So you can just filter by item ID. We automatically know that data from the feed. You can then make optimization decisions based on that. So you can see if a particular item is performing really well or taking loads of traffic. And then you can think about separating out rather than having all the stuff separated out for no reason and having an overly complex structure. So what we mean is there isn't really a need to have all your products separated out into individual targets. Mostly they'll receive hardly any traffic. It's only really a good strategy if they're taking a high proportion of the traffic, they're particularly strategic for you. You want to assign, it's an iPad or something, you want to assign it its own budget or particularly its own bid. So just be, it's always that balance, right, between having really granular management and also having time to really be effective with your optimization decisions. So just make sure you're striking that balance between granular bidding and grouping as well. Okay, so key points when you're thinking about your product groups. So the first one is make sure you're driving more traffic to your website and improving visibility of commonly searched products. So basically, we're talking about subdividing your highest clicks. So look through all the data that you now have and then pull out the things that are taking the high proportion of clicks or cost and make sure you're optimizing them or bidding to them differently than the rest of your products. Streamline your campaign management. So if you have product groups or product targets that are receiving very little traffic, feel free to just pause them and just put them back into, they'll fall back into everything else then. There's an everything else category. So it won't be like you're not bidding on them. It's just that they don't need an individual bidding strategy. So they can go straight back into the everything else product group. Oops, sorry. And then make sure you're maximizing the products that sell. So if something's doing particularly well in a product group, an individual product, think about moving it out or think about making a smaller set of product groups if that's necessary. So just the general optimization thing. And that stuff I think correlates quite easily to your keyword strategies that you're all very used to. So it's that kind of similar basis. Group things where appropriate, pull them out if they're doing particularly well. And then similarly, if things are not doing as well and you don't want to just put them in your everything else category, you can also set up product targets with lower bids than your everything else category, which previously wouldn't have actually worked with the way our old bidding structure. So you're able to have product groups with lower bids as well. You don't just have to exclude them or turn them off. Okay? So you're all set up, you've got an amazing feed, you've got an amazing structured shopping campaign, everything's brilliant. What do you do next? So I'm not going to go through that in too much detail, but basically there's loads of new optimization stuff available to you. So the first thing is use the data, use the new data that we have. So we have max CPC and CTR benchmarks, right? And those are giving you an idea of the competitive landscape for your groups of products. So use that data. So if you have particular products or areas that are really important to you, make sure you're using that data to be competitive where you want to be competitive. So get an idea of what the field is bidding for products and what their CTRs are. And if it works out for you, if it makes sense to your margins, increase your bids so you can be competitive where you want to be. Make sure you're looking at your impression share data. So impression share is basically, in this instance, it's loss to rank. So you're not bidding enough, or you're losing impressions because your bids aren't high enough. So get an idea, again, of where you're missing out because your bids aren't high enough. See how that correlates to your benchmark CPC data. Also, very well hidden, in the Opportunities tab, we have a budget opportunity report. So again, previously, we gave you very little clarity into whether your budgets were good, bad, or ugly for shopping campaigns. We now have a budget opportunity report which says if you increase your budget to this, you could get this many more clicks, et cetera, in smaller increments. So you can get an idea of what the changes that you make, what impact they could have. And similarly, with the bid simulator, we're giving you an opportunity to say, okay, if you increase your bid by X, we expect you to get around Y amount of clicks. So really giving you more of an idea of what's happening in the market and what impact the changes you make might have. Okay? And then lastly, think about further optimization techniques. So make sure, again, it's really important, use the product group strategy that we have and the opportunity that you have there to pull things out where it makes sense and to give yourself more control over the products that are important to you. Use the campaign priority settings. So that low, medium, high thing that I showed you at the beginning, that's really helpful in helping you prioritize your products and your inventory in a way that makes sense to you, and make sure you're bidding what you want for the products that you have in your feed. And then lastly, make sure you're breaking out your high value products and maximizing the traffic that's coming to you. And as I said, that bit's particularly important because bidding and all that stuff is becoming ever more important in our auction over the course of this year, and we have more tools and stuff available to you coming up hopefully around this summer. Okay, and lastly, I realise that I've bombarded you with a lot of information. So we have a lot of resources, and we actually have a whole microsite dedicated to shopping campaigns, which is hours of fun. So you will get this presentation and a link to that. And then we have our various help centres. And then I would definitely also, if you're not already signed up to the Commerce blog and AdWords blog, stay tuned because there will be updates on the upgrade and migration there, giving you more tips and tricks. Tips and tricks and also webinars, all that kind of stuff to try and help you with the whole upgrade process. Okay, everyone's hangovers are gone now, right? Told you. Sorry, I'll go back. So yeah, that leaves us, I think, with a few moments for any. I'm sure you have loads of burning shopping campaigns questions for me, so I'm happy to answer them. Hi. Oh, do you need that green monster thing? Android. Didn't say that. Oh. She's silent in here.
You said that Farfetch is a good case history. I work for a luxury fashion brand.
Yes.
And I find it hard to sell a 2,000 euros handbag through PLAs.
Uh-huh.
It's not really easy because you got just a picture and the title and the price and then the link.
So that's an interesting question.
What do you think are the key factors for Farfetch success?
They are honestly, it's, so I don't know for specific product categories or specific items like you're mentioning. So I can't say that Farfetch are doing a great job selling luxury handbags, but what I do know is that they're doing a great job optimizing their campaigns. So they really moved to shopping campaigns quickly and then really worked out where they wanted to target. So they're very targeted in some areas and use quite broad groups in other areas, and they're just excellent at bidding and using the system how they need to. But I think that's a wider point that's interesting, is what does a product listing ad look like? And that is right now, for every product, it looks exactly the same, right? So we serve an image, description, price, etc. One of the focuses that our engineering team are working on and our product design team are working on at the moment is different visualizations for different categories, right? So for apparel, one of the reasons that we're asking everyone to give us variants, color sizes, etc., is because we want to think about how we surface that data. So for a red dress or for a handbag, that's very visual. So you want to do more with the images, for example. With electronics, if someone types in Canon D500 something, very specific model, we don't necessarily want to be showing 5 different images of exactly the same camera. Maybe for electronics, we want to be showing just one image and more about the reviews or the specs and things like that. So we're aware of the fact that we have a very kind of simple view right now, and that we need to work on different sectors and how to make the unit more appealing.
Thank you. And by the way, if someone of you is an Elvis Presley fan, please come to me during the break for my bingo card. I won't tell anybody.
Cool. And there's a couple of questions over there. No one's not great throwers here.
Hi. Oh, it's working. There we go. I use AdWords Editor to do a lot of the optimization on stuff. And is there any plans? Because at the moment they're not very compatible at the moment. You know, obviously going in the AdWords interface that you just showed, things like adding bulk negatives to campaigns, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Your editor at the moment. Is there any plans to?
Yeah. Can I hide from the question and give it to somebody? So that's definitely the official answer. So yes, we know we're not AdWords Editor compatible yet, and I'll be completely honest with you, we're not going to be fully compatible by the time we migrate. So I would plan. We will have some compatibility towards probably July, but I don't want to be, if you work in product, you're never allowed to say dates, but that it won't be full creation, absolutely. It will be things like bulk changes for bids, bulk changes for URLs. So if you use Editor, you plan to make the changes in AdWords. Don't wait for it. So there will be limited functionality, but not everything. There's a question behind you.
Okay. Will there be an option to target languages instead of countries before the migration to shopping campaign?
Yeah, all very good questions, but make me less and less popular as they go on. Okay, so I can actually, no is the answer to that, but I can tell you how to do that, what the workaround is. Can I just quickly go back to the computer, please? That's possible. Yeah, so it's actually a great question. So the question is basically, when you create a new campaign, we have here the country of sale, and the country of sale, for example, if you're selling something in Switzerland, it's just Switzerland rather than I want to up my feeds in French or my feeds in German. I think that's what you're asking. And how do you actually, if you have both feeds, how do you target the language? And the answer is right now you can't do that in AdWords, but there is a workaround. So the workaround is you create a custom label in your feed, and you put French in it for all the French products, and then you create a custom label. And for example, you can just go, so Switzerland, and then when you go to shopping settings, you create a custom filter, and you go custom label 0 is French, and then you're targeting everything that's French in your merchant center. Does that make sense? It's a workaround, but we will we won't be fixing that before migration, but obviously that is definitely on the roadmap.
Hello?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, sorry.
But I thought you can only have 1,000 products in one custom label.
Yes.
So, if
yes, it's not a great workaround because you have to create multiple labels, and yeah, it's really difficult. But it kind of solves part of the problem. But we'll be rolling as soon as possible. Basically, we have to get to the migration, and we can't fix that right before then. But it's like a high priority for as soon as we've crossed the line. There's a question behind you as well.
Hi there. This actually just goes back to the first question. I'm from Farfetch.
Okay, great.
So a bit of an anticlimax now. But so with the question about luxury items, what we found was that although we don't sell many high-priced items directly, shopping is a really good discovery tool for new customers, and that they're actually using it a lot in their early part of their purchase before converting elsewhere. So it's still a big piece of the puzzle. It's just, I guess, trying to figure out how it fits into like the attribution of it, basically.
Great. Got a great shout out on our earnings call as well with Google. It's very exciting. There's a question behind you.
Just a question really on integration of remarketing lists for search ads with PLAs.
Yeah.
And when obviously that will be, if it is on the roadmap.
Yeah, so yes, it's on the roadmap, but I think, so one thing, getting two product teams together and working on joint priorities sometimes difficult because both products have huge priorities themselves. So I think, I don't work on the audience stuff, but I think that's definitely something they know about, and it's a big opportunity, but it's not, I don't think it's going to happen immediately, but it's definitely on the roadmap. Yeah, it'll be a great feature for product listing ads, so we're really pushing hard for it.
Is Google planning to help advertisers improving the feed, like find and replace things? Merge columns, etc.?
So I'm not sure about the merging columns bit exactly. What do you mean by? I can tell you what I do know. Shopping campaigns is the AdWords UI fix, right? So that's the first part. The second thing we want to focus on is feeds, right? And that is, if I'm completely honest, that's not going to happen overnight because we really need to think about what is the best way forward, right? So do we actually want to do things like the automatic items beta that I referred to, where we kind of try to look at the site on a dynamic basis and pull the prices in? Or do we want to even just get all the data from the site? Like, what's the easiest way? Is a feed the best solution for this? Like, what is the best way forward for our advertisers to manage this whole process? So yes, absolutely, it's one of our key focuses for the rest of the year. But it's in a strategic way and working out what we need to build to take this kind of headache away. But yeah, we are very appreciative of the fact that it's not easy right now.
Hi, I have a question. The product listing ads have high CTR, but what is the effect on the quality score of the other AdWords results?
Text ads.
Text ads, yes.
Yeah, so it's a good question. When we released product listing ads, we did it with the intention of it being a better, for many queries, being a better answer than possibly a text ad. But we also realized that that is not true in every case, and that a text ad is often a very good user experience as well. So we expected a redistribution of clicks, we expected some kind of change. Our text ads normalize for that in terms of quality scores. So by that I mean, when there is a product listing ad serving alongside a text ad, we don't penalize the text ad for not getting a click, because we know that we are also serving product listing ads, and often we expect the clicks to go there. So there's no detrimental penalizing of the text ad because we're showing both sets. And quite the opposite, we've seen that text ads and PLAs work very well together as well. Any other questions? Oh, I think there's one down there. Oh.
Are you hearing? It's okay.
Yeah.
I have a question about the taxonomy. It's a thing that takes really a lot of time.
Yes.
And we used to have an online semantic seeker for to match our product category to the Google product category, and it disappeared. Actually, we have to use an Excel file.
Okay.
And I don't know if there is anything in the roadmap to help us match our taxonomy.
Match it automatically again. Yeah, I don't know the answer if we have a new one coming up in place. Do you know, Gail? No, but we could actually, so we can follow up and find out on that because I don't know.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks. Cool. Any other questions? No, all questioned out? Okay, well, I'll be hanging around for a while afterwards anyway, if there's any secret burning shopping campaigns questions. But thank you so much for your time and for coming. I really appreciate it. Bye.